Happy birthday, happy 10th anniversary to Apidays, and thanks for giving us the opportunity once again to give a little bit of the vision on European matters of digitalization. I'm here today to speak about European digital sovereignty and the role that APIs play on it. I'm not sure I'm understanding how this works, so So my name is Monica Posada. I work for the Joint Research Center, which is the European Commission Science and Knowledge Services, that its mission is to provide independent scientific advice and support to policymaking in Europe. I work in the digital economy unit, and I have been long researching the role of APIs in digital transformation. But I'm here today to talk about why digital sovereignty is relevant for Europe. So the 21st century is the dawn of the digital age. Europe is committed to contributing to making it a right one for everyone. Not surprisingly, and Europe fit for the digital age is a top priority of von der Leyen's Commission. The vision is a digital age that is aligned with European values and principles. You name them: freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and human rights. A digital age that leverages technology to ease the life of people of all kinds and conditions and generations. Technologies that help humanity to face global challenges that require timely actions: climate change, food security, energy crisis, health crisis, and conflicts. But to achieve this goal, Europe needs to ensure its ability to influence the evolution of the global digitalization by keeping up with her leadership and strategic autonomy, or in other words, to have digital sovereignty. Thanks a lot. Thank you. So the strategic autonomy relates to Europe's ability to act independently in the digital world. So there is concern about the economic and social influence that non-EU technological companies have on the digitalization evolution. Under the current situation, European actors, citizens, companies, and even governments have limited control over the data they produce and the value that they generated, constrained competition power for European high-technology companies, and limited abilities of national and European rule-makers to enforce their laws. These are all the issues that Europe is busy with and active on defining specific actions that I'll summarize in a minute. The ability of Europe to influence the course of digitalization depends on its capacity to act independently in the digital world. Europe has several courses of actions that tackle the entire technical stack, from the physical infrastructure, hardware and networks, to the software application one. Today, given that this is an API conference, my session will focus only on the soft layer, but it doesn't mean that Europe is not addressing other strategic autonomy issues, such as the access to raw materials and the manufacturing of electronic components. So, on the software layer, Europe has three main pillars of action. It wants to increase the control over the use of data, of European data, its access, and its value distribution. It wants to unleash the full potential and capacity for innovation, and it wants to increase its capacity to steer the governance of data interactions. All the lines that you see on the right column of the table are different regulatory actions that Europe is currently busy with. So on the control over the use of data, we have the European data strategy as an overarching vision. We have the General Data Protection Regulation, the Free Flow of Non-Personal Data, Digital Service Act, and the Open Data Directive. Tackling with the capacity for innovation, we have the European Industrial and the Small and Medium Enterprise Strategy, the Digital Markets Act and the Platform to Business Regulation that aim to reduce the power of the main the gatekeepers that currently define the digitalization processes. And infrastructure-wise, Europe is also developing the European data spaces that are meant to foster data sharing and the creation of services on key sectors such as energy, mobility, the public sector, and so on, and the Green Deal, indeed. So there is more actions. So another type of measures that Europe has to be ready to influence the global course of digitalization, the support, the development of world-class digital infrastructure through both financing mechanisms, such as the just closed Horizon 2020, the Horizon and the upcoming Horizon Europe, the CEF2, which and the Digital Europe program, and also fostering multi-stakeholders cooperation networks and mechanisms, such as the European Alliance for Industrial Data, Edge, and Cloud Computing. So what's the role of APIs in digital sovereignty? It applies indeed to the software application layer, and it may have three main components. The technical one, which will focus on harnessing innovation, ensuring the robustness of ICT infrastructure, and control of the digital interactions. In this, APIs will be key on the security and the access to data and its control. On the coordination component, the coordination component is very relevant because it may steer the data-driven relationships. And given that APIs define what data and functionality is available for whom and under which conditions, modulating these conditions will be key on coordinating for a fair and sustainable digital relations. The other pillar or component is the legal one. And if Europe wants to influence for alignment with European values and principles, given that APIs are contracts and their terms and conditions define the relationships between digital actors, these conditions and contracts should follow the values and the principles of Europe. So, all this reflection about the role of APIs in digital coordination were published on a policy brief this year. And this brief distilled from the extensive analysis that the JRC has done on the role of APIs in digital transformation. Specifically, the last project we've worked on analyzed API strategic essentials for digital innovation. In particular, we studied how organizations can best leverage their API infrastructure to become a reliable and successful player in the digital ecosystem, from three perspectives: the technical, the organizational, and the legal one. This project involved three Director Generals in the European Commission, which are very deeply involved in the definition of the European data strategy actions. And I will now briefly navigate you through the highlights of this study. So, the first pillar was the technical one, the technical strategy essentials. APIs, so in order to have a thriving API ecosystem, the first thing that we have to do is to ensure that the companies are doing their best to have the best products and services and the more competitive ones. And for that, they need to address these 5 points that are very relevant on the technical point. So they have to have a very good API product management. They have to be extremely careful on API security to ensure that the ICT infrastructures are robust. They have to be aligned with privacy regulations. They have to make sure that these APIs and services are available and discoverable so that they can be used and reused to the maximum potential of whatever data or functionality that they are exposing. They have to be well described such that the interoperability and the usability of these services is good. And also, given a little bit more of an ecosystem vision, each organization has to be aware of all the APIs that they have, and it has to manage them in a cohesive way, such that it can plug into the ecosystem efficiently. Another pillar that we studied were the organizational essentials, and we looked at different coordination levels. So we looked at the strategic level on which companies need to develop a vision of digital ecosystem beyond their own perimeter. So they have to be aware of their API portfolio assets. They have to develop strategic partnerships and develop sustainable digital relationships. They have to define boundary conditions and governance styles for their digital interactions, which are fair and follow the regulations. And they need to innovate and invest in agile, multi-stakeholder test-based processes, because that will maximize their potential to get the more of their own assets. Another coordination level is the tactical. On this level, it's necessary to deploy robust and agile API infrastructure and processes. On the infrastructures, you need to make a design which is secure, performant, and paying special attention to the connections with their digital partners. Companies need to invest in the skills of their workforce, and they need to create new roles that are capable to manage not only the products, but the ecosystem that have around. On the processes at the tactical level, there need to be investment in updating processes and operations, such as be careful about you all know this very well, of the API lifecycle management, agile procurements, and stakeholder management, and also on the legal part, the definitions of terms of services, agreements, and contracts, which is not a technical thing, but is necessary that the technical and the legal teams of companies have an aligned vision. On the operational level, this is something that I will not get into it because you know it very well. Need to implement, deploy, monitor, and maintain the API operations. So, on the digital coordination, on the legal pillar of our analysis, it was very clear that for Europe, for the digital single market of Europe to thrive and be competitive, requires legal stability. APIs define technical and legal constraints of digital interactions, and we did an analysis using natural language processing for understanding how these conditions are affecting the digital ecosystem in a systemic perspective. So we analyzed whether there was homogeneity in the drafting of the terms of services. We did we looked whether terms of services comply with the applicable laws. we tried to understand how intellectual property rights were described in these terms of services, and whether the terms of services are fostering or hindering cooperation or fair competition. And what we saw on the homogeneity is that there were structural commonalities, even though we found interesting that up to almost 40% of the terms of service did not mention the word API, which was a little bit curious, because we thought that it might imply that these terms of service are describing the terms of service of the entire application, but they might be missing opportunities for a systemic vision of the use of these APIs. We also, on the compliance with governing laws, we saw that the laws are present in the terms of services, and legal teams are doing a good work on taking it into account already now. Regarding the cooperation and fair competition analysis, we did analysis on the transparency of the terms of services, on the termination conditions and liabilities and guarantees described. What we saw is that indeed terms of services are not easy to read. Most of them do not have definitions, so it will be necessary to make an improvement on that side. We found a very curious and maybe threatening evidence that 40% of the terms of services analyzed, which were more than almost 3,000, declare unbalanced termination conditions, meaning that APIs, terms of service, said that they could stop their service at any point of time without having any liability or responsibility on it. So this might have a systemic risk if we think about in terms of digital ecosystems. Also, we found that the liability and warranties described are not always very well described, and there is room for quite some improvement in that area too. So, coming back to the digital sovereignty. So I want to wrap up with the first sentence that I say. So Europe is committed to contributing to make a bright digital age for everyone. But the achievement of this goal will depend on her capacity to influence the creation of a robust, trustworthy, ethical, fair, and competitive digital tissue. A digital tissue that works for people and promotes European values and principles. You all, as API practitioners of every kind of role, will play a role on achieving this very big goal. And I can only hope that my presentation can inspire some motivation and that will spark some ideas on your bright minds. And indeed, I really look forward to see this vision become a reality. So, and with this, I'm open to any question.
Thank you very much.